what are the odds that Isaiah Likely gets fined after the game between these two teams behind me right here? Pretty likely. Welcome, everybody, to JG9 News, where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm Jowar Gare, representing the 904 from the 602, and today we are talking about that season opening game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. An absolute thrilling game where the Chiefs won by a final score of 27-20, and the main man of the game had to be Baltimore Ravens tight end Isaiah Likely in the losing effort. Likely had maybe the best game of his career, 9 catches, 111 yards, 1 touchdown. However, with the score at 27-20, the final play of regulation, Isaiah Likely was involved in a play that will be talked about forever, and for a very long period of time, I should say, as Likely could have had a second touchdown to end regulation and maybe give the Ravens the win if they were going to go for 2. And I think they were going to go for 2. The problem is that Likely's toe was out by about a hair. It was very, very close to being in bounds, but his toe was clearly out. So game over. Chiefs win. Could have been the icing on the cake for a phenomenal performance by Isaiah Likely. Instead, he gets the loss, and he might get a hefty fine from the NFL and might get a strongly worded letter that he might have to chalk over some money to the league office. Because after the game, as he was walking into the tunnel, I don't know if you caught this, but he said some words going into the locker room tunnel, and take a listen.
Fuck you, bitch!
All right, so you heard that pretty clearly. I'm not going to repeat the language, but you can clearly hear what he said. He definitely hurled some profanity directed at a fan. Now, the insult itself, you stink? Come on! That's what triggered you? That's the most tame insult ever! That's literally the first thing you learn how to say when you're heckling. A 3-year-old can say that. I knew how to say that from a very young age. That literally was a line in SpongeBob when Squidward gets heckled and the fish says, "Boo, you stink." Remember that episode of SpongeBob where Bubble Bass destroys SpongeBob's confidence and make a Krabby Patty? So SpongeBob quits for a moment while he tries to get his confidence back. Squidward takes over as the fry cook. He does a crap job at it. And then afterwards, as SpongeBob's trying to make the crowd cheer for Squidward because SpongeBob has his job back, the fish says, "Boo, you stink." Remember that? Yeah, that's from SpongeBob. And the fan hurled that insult at Isaiah Likely, and that's what triggered that reaction. It was not like it was a racial slur hurled his way, or a low blow made about his family member or a dying relative, or hoping that Isaiah Likely would be injured and stay injured after that play he took earlier in the game, because with about 10 seconds left, he did get hurt, did come back to the game, which was good to see. But this was literally the tamest of all insults, to the point where I could ask 5th graders on a playground to come up with something better, and they'd have 20 things in 30 seconds that cut deeper than this. It's so generic that you stink. I'm not even sure if this was being addressed at Likely himself. Honestly, I don't know if the fan who hurled that insult even knew that Likely was there. He was probably just talking about the Ravens. He was probably just yelling down to the Ravens tunnel as the players were walking inside, "You stink." Not once was Likely even addressed in this. This was the most generic insult ever. And for Isaiah Likely to say that at the fan, not a great move. I'm not really sure what happened there. Having said that, though, that won't be the end of our story, because it is very likely, in fact, I would say extremely likely, that Isaiah Likely, no pun intended, will get fined for this, for using profane language and directing it at a fan, which is against the NFL rules. If you look at the NFL rules and compliance, you look at what it says in the introduction to this. Tens of millions of NFL fans watch games each week during the season. During each contest, the league's world-class athletes conduct themselves in a way that honors the sport and respects the game, their fellow players, and here's the big one, the fans and the league. I don't know about you, but this is definitely not honoring the fans. I don't know how anyone can say with a straight face that calling a player a B word and throwing an F-bomb at that fan honors and respects the fans. Yeah, we honor the fans so much that we encourage our players to just curse at them all the time. The introduction also mentions the importance of young fans and parents. If you look at what it says there, in doing so with compliance and whatnot, the compliance team helps to fulfill the NFL's responsibilities to players, officials, and business partners, as well as to the game's young fans and their parents. So it's about setting good examples. And one of the ways you do that is through good sportsmanship and good language. and not just by yelling out curse words after losses. Now, families may be less likely to attend games if players can just hurl out curses in their direction with no consequences. So there's a reason why this rule is in place. It makes a ton of sense. You can't curse at the fans. It's that simple. It's very clear, cut and dry. You can't curse at the fans. And it explicitly mentions at one point in the conduct policy for fines and whatnot that using profanity will draw the league's attention. And you can't deny the fact that this was profane. This was not one of those borderline curse words. This was not one of those words like, oh, no, you can interpret it one way or the other. No, he clearly, very clearly, I should say, dropped an F-bomb and called someone a B-word. So, yeah, that's profane. That goes against the NFL's policy, and expect a heavy fine for Isaiah Likely. And there is precedent for this. Back in 2014, New York Jets quarterback Geno Smith got fined $12,000 for cursing at a fan in a game against the Detroit Lions. The Jets trailed that one 17-3 at the half. Geno was playing like absolute crap. The Jets' offense was playing like crap. They scored a field goal on the opening drive, but after that, the final 6 drives of the half resulted in 5 punts and the clock expiring, and it went for a combined 22 yards. That was it. 6 drives, I should say, 22 yards combined. That's an average of under 4 yards per drive. The fans heckled. They were not happy. They were booing. And Geno shouted out something profane, and he got fined for it. And it's not the only time that we've seen Roger Goodell as commissioner lay down the iron fist when it comes to not tolerating profanity directed at fans. In 2011, also involving the New York Jets, sadly enough, Rex Ryan, as the head coach, got fined $75,000 for cussing out a fan at MetLife Stadium. So, with players, the first fine is under unsportsmanlike conduct, and it was $12,000 when Geno did it. Nowadays, obviously with inflation and with the way the salary cap works and with the money in the game, $14,000 is the fine or thereabouts. So I expect Isaiah Likely to get fined $14,000 or thereabouts for what happened at the end of this game. And the fact that there is audio and it's clear cut as we could tell what the fans said. We could see Isaiah Likely's lips moving, so we know it clearly came from him. And we know there was nothing that crossed the line from the fan. It was just very, very tame heckling that 4-year-olds do. Yeah, Isaiah Likely, he's going to have about 5 figures less in his bank account by the end of next week than he did at the start of the week after that. Obviously, you can't yell profanity at fans. You can't direct profane statements at fans. Isaiah Likely broke the golden rule when it comes to NFL players and how they treat the fans, and the NFL's going to get all over him for that one. It takes away from what was a phenomenal game for Isaiah Likely. Again, over 100 yards receiving. The ball was either going to Zay Flowers or was going to Isaiah Likely, and he had 1 touchdown, which was great at the start of the fourth quarter. The very first play of the fourth quarter, we made quite a few Chiefs defenders miss, and the second touchdown was awfully close. Obviously, there was frustration. I get it, but no excuse to be saying anything like that. And the fact that it was caught on video and clear cut, caught on video with the fan audio and with Likely's audio, yeah, Isaiah Likely, you're going to get a pretty hefty fine for what happened here. Again, no suspension, but first offense for unsportsmanlike conduct. It's going to be a fine just like Geno Smith got in 2014, and just like plenty of players have gotten when they have cursed at fans before. But what are your thoughts on Isaiah Likely? What are your thoughts on his performance? Do you think he should be fined for this statement? Do you think that this rule makes sense on the NFL's part? Do you think it doesn't make sense? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think the fine is going to be too much, too little? Do you think it's going to be the $14,000 that I expect it to be for first offense for unsportsmanlike conduct? Think it's going to be a bit more because it was a nationally televised game? Think it's going to be a bit less because it was in the tunnel? Do you think it's going to be nothing at all? Again, let me know everything down below. And that is going to do it for this episode of JG9 News. Be sure you like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check my main channel, Jaguar9, where we talk about all things NFL history all the time. Until next time, this is Jaguar9 signing off. And as always, go Jags.